Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
There is a quiet war taking place every day you wake up, one that doesn't fire bullets or drop bombs, but wages destruction all the same. It begins in your mind. The world doesn't always try to kill you physically. It tries to kill your will, your focus, your hunger. It chips away at your edge with comfort, poisons your clarity with distraction, and floods your purpose with noise. You think survival means avoiding death, but real survival means resisting erosion. To be hard to kill is not about dodging bullets. It's about resisting the slow suffocation of mediocrity. It's about standing untouched by the decay that consumes most men from the inside out. It's waking up with fire while others drown in fog. It's choosing discipline in a culture addicted to escape. You cannot be hard to kill if you're easy to sway. If a little pain sends you retreating, if a little failure makes you spiral, you are already defeated. You don't become indestructible by chance. You forge it. Through choices that make you uncomfortable, through actions that leave you exposed, through days that demand more from you than you think you have. The man who is hard to kill walks through storms because he knows storms don't last. He welcomes pressure not for the pain, but for the sharpening. He bleeds without whining, stumbles without folding, and breaks without permission. He does not wait for life to treat him kindly. He builds himself so relentlessly that even life doesn't dare hit him casually. People want to be protected, they want soft landings and padded falls, but what they don't realize is that the more you insulate yourself from discomfort, the easier you are to shatter. A man who needs everything controlled is already dead the moment chaos arrives. Being hard to kill means building a body that doesn't beg for comfort, a mind that doesn't collapse in silence, a soul that doesn't dissolve when isolated. You train for war even when peace is promised. You don't trust the calm. You prepare for what's hiding beneath it. Because the attack rarely comes when you expect it, it comes when you're lazy, when you're distracted, when your sword is dull and your spirit is soft. To be hard to kill means emotional resilience, not emotional denial. It's not about pretending you don't feel. It's about never being ruled by what you feel. Pain visits everyone, but in some it builds a fortress, in others it rots the foundation. The difference is choice. You either use it or you surrender to it. The man who is hard to kill feels the cut and tightens his grip. He uses the sting as confirmation that he's still alive. He knows the body heals faster than the mind, and so he trains the mind daily. Because physical survival without mental strength is hollow. You can survive the fight, but lose the war inside your own head. Hard to kill means you stop looking for escape routes. You stop waiting for a savior. You realize the cavalry isn't coming, and that's when you become dangerous. Because when you stop expecting rescue, your energy shifts. You start building, sharpening, preparing. You become a man who doesn't flinch at chaos but adapts mid-battle, not because he enjoys pain, but because he's familiar with it. He's had breakfast with doubt, dinner with disappointment. He's used to being outnumbered, and he no longer cares, because the man who has faced hell and lived doesn't tremble at inconvenience. It's easy to destroy a man who hides behind masks. It's easy to kill someone who is emotionally fragile, who needs everything to go according to plan. The man who's hard to kill has no masks, only scars. And those scars tell a story of endurance, of battles fought in silence, of victories no one clapped for. That man does not wear armor to be admired, he wears it because he's been hit before. And he plans to be hit again, but this time, he'll still be standing when the dust settles, still breathing when the chaos clears. Because survival isn't the end, it's the beginning. Every time you survive, you raise the standard. Every time you don't die, you become harder to kill. You don't need to be fearless, you need to act regardless. Fear is information, not instruction. Being hard to kill doesn't mean you don't feel anxiety, it means you don't become its puppet. You move anyway, you speak anyway, you show up anyway. That's where power is born. In the contradiction. In doing what terrifies you because your mission matters more than your mood. Most people never live because they want certainty before they act, but certainty is an illusion. What you need is conviction. Conviction doesn't wait for green lights, it kicks down the door. That's the mindset of someone who's hard to kill. There's no schedule for attack, no appointment for adversity. You won't get a warning before life swings at you. So train daily. Sharpen hourly. Build a system so ruthless that it holds you upright when the ground beneath you gives way. Build a structure so disciplined that even on your worst day you outperform most people's best. That's not ego, that's insurance. That's understanding that life has no obligation to be kind, and every time you forget that, it will remind you. But the man who is hard to kill never forgets. He smiles during the reminder, because it means he's still in the game. Being hard to kill means building a spirit that even despair can't choke. You've got to look heartbreak in the eye and say, try again. You've got to watch plans collapse and still whisper, I'm not done. You've got to outlast. Not just outthink or outperform, outlast. Because most of your enemies aren't smarter, they're just more willing to wait for you to quit. Outlast them. Wear them down with your resilience, with your refusal to disappear. Because endurance is louder than talent, consistency outscreams charisma, show up when it's darkest. That's where legends are made. So no, being hard to kill isn't about brawn, it's not about coldness, it's about preparation. It's about emotional range without emotional chaos. It's about choosing fortitude over fantasy, choosing action over overthinking, choosing self-respect over temporary comfort. Every day the world tries to kill your edge. Every day you must sharpen it again. Let the hits come, let the storms rise, let the odds stack. Just keep walking. Because when you truly become hard to kill, you don't chase survival. You become survival itself. The battlefield that defines you is not physical, it's neurological. The nervous system is the gatekeeper of all power. You think success is intellect, but intelligence is only potential. It's your ability to remain composed under psychological siege that determines who survives and who folds. Pressure is the real measure of a man. Not how loud he speaks in comfort, but how still he stands in chaos. When the lights cut out, when the system fails, when everything you've built begins to shake, what do? IQ won't save you then. Strategy becomes static. The sharpest mind collapses without the nervous system to hold it. That's the truth no one teaches. Your body is a battlefield and your nervous system is your armor. And if that armor is thin, every insult pierces, every delay destabilizes, every setback dismantles. You were never told to train your internal circuitry. You were told to learn skills, get grades, chase metrics. But no one mentioned that without nervous system control, those skills fail when you need them most. The calmest man wins, not the smartest. The most regulated man moves fastest when timing matters. If you're quick to panic, you forfeit your advantage because when panic rises, perception shrinks, vision tunnels, focus fractures. The world shrinks into a moment of emotional blindness, and that's where most people lose. Not because they weren't capable, but because they couldn't hold. They couldn't contain the storm inside long enough to outlast the one outside. To be hard to kill, you must master the only system that touches every part of you, your nervous system. It is the signal beneath every action, the current behind every decision. You can't think clearly if you can't breathe calmly. You can't speak powerfully if your voice trembles from dysregulation. And you certainly can't lead, build, or battle when your body believes it's in danger. So, retrain your breath. Condition your exposure to pressure. Place yourself inside fire until it becomes home. You don't rise by accident. You rise by becoming a fortress from the inside out. And fortresses don't crumble from noise. They absorb it. Regulation is the new revolution. You don't need more fire, you need control of the fire. That's the difference between dangerous and destructive. The man who cannot regulate his state becomes a prisoner of it. But the man who learns to anchor himself, his presence grows heavier, denser. You feel it when he enters the room. He doesn't rush, he doesn't shake, because he's carrying a system that no longer responds to fear the way the average man does. And when crisis arrives, it's that system that gives him the edge. Not instinct, not luck, but preparation. You've met these people, the ones who remain unaffected when others spiral. You mistake it for coldness. It's wiring. They've built a nervous system that doesn't collapse under tension, and that makes them lethal. Because while others waste precious seconds emotionally drowning, they're making decisions, calculating moves, reading the room. And those seconds, they separate greatness from irrelevance. You can't fake poise. You either have it or you crack. And if you want to hold anything of value, relationships, empires, leadership, it starts here. Regulated men become pillars. Dysregulated men become liability. People speak of grit, but grit is just repeated regulation. It's not pushing harder, it's recovering faster. It's the ability to face disruption without losing orientation. That's what makes you indestructible, not just your will, but your nervous system's capacity to hold your will. Everyone breaks at their edge. Your job is to push that edge further every day until what once triggered collapse now triggers focus, until adversity becomes an invitation, until you stop seeing obstacles as threats and start treating them as calibration. That's the training. Not to avoid stress, but to increase your capacity to carry it. Resilience isn't sexy. It doesn't look like speed or sound like brilliance. It feels like stillness under fire. It feels like being the eye of the storm when everything around you spirals, and when that becomes your default state, you stop chasing results and start bending reality. Because presence is power. And presence cannot exist in a nervous system hijacked by panic. That's why regulated men win, because they don't blink when the moment calls for stillness. They don't shake when the world throws chaos their way. They breathe, lock in, and decide. You can build this, but it will cost you comfort. It will demand exposure. You'll have to sit inside tension without fleeing, face confrontation without folding, and breathe through scenarios that used to break you. You'll have to unlearn every coping mechanism that numbed you and replace it with presence. Grit isn't born in hardship, it's born in how you process it. The man who regulates pain doesn't avoid it, he metabolizes it. He extracts clarity from it, and that clarity becomes vision. Your nervous system is your kingdom. Govern it well, and nothing external can dethrone you. Let it fall into disrepair, and even peace will feel like war. You think mastery is external, but real mastery is internal structure. It's the capacity to hold complexity without crumbling. And the moment you realize that, your entire pursuit changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop chasing perfection. You start chasing composure. You start chasing state. And when you own your state, the world no longer controls your fate. Books won't save you in the arena. Quotes won't stabilize your pulse when chaos surges. Reading about strength may inspire a flicker of hope, but it is the embodiment of strength that keeps you standing when the world swings hard. Knowledge without integration is decoration. You can memorize philosophies, master mindsets, and recite warrior creeds. But if your breath still stutters under stress, if your body collapses into slouch and hesitation, then the battlefield will expose you. Strength is not something you access in thought. It is coded into your breath, your stance, your reaction under fire. Reading is the ignition. Embodiment is the flame. And until the words you read are reflected in the way you walk into a room, the way you hold eye contact, the way you recover after failure, then you are still performing, not becoming. Every breath you take trains your nervous system. Every choice you make teaches your psyche what kind of man you are becoming. You don't need to scream your potential. You need to breathe it. You need to walk as if your spine is a flagpole. Sit like you're guarding a kingdom. Speak like every sentence matters. Most men move like they're waiting for permission. You must move like the war has already started, and you're the only one who showed up armed, because you are. Your posture is not decoration, it is declaration. The body does not lie. It broadcasts the inner world. Slumped shoulders scream surrender. Shallow breath signals collapse. Watch a man under pressure, he will reveal everything. And if you haven't trained your body to hold weight, it will fold the moment life applies pressure. This is why rituals matter, not for performance, but for programming. The way you rise, the way you eat, the way you sit in silence. These are not mundane habits, they are architecture. They are scaffolding for your self-identity. If your day begins with chaos, if your movements are rushed, if your presence is scattered, then your nervous system is being trained for fragility. You are rehearsing collapse. But if your morning is deliberate, your movements precise, your decisions decisive, you are writing a different script, one that reinforces solidity, one that makes your presence heavy and your focus lethal. Strength is not built in grand gestures. It is built in repetition. In how many times you can embody composure without applause. In how many silent moments you win without needing recognition. You want to be hard to kill? Then start treating your body like a sacred tool. Fuel it with discipline. Move with clarity. Don't dress it in armor and fill it with poison. Don't decorate it for performance and then abandon it under pressure. Your body is the first battlefield. If it's undisciplined, your mind will follow. If it's neglected, your resilience will fracture. Strength begins in the vessel, not the voice. And the vessel must be trained daily, not for beauty, but for battle. You don't build this kind of frame for the mirror. You build it for the storm. But more than the body, it's your decision-making that builds the spine of resilience. You don't get to read about grit and then choose comfort. You don't consume stories of greatness and then sleep in. Every decision trains your fate. You're either casting votes for power or for erosion. There is no neutral. Every action tells your psyche what to expect from you, and over time, that expectation becomes your identity. This is why you must make decisions that match the man you say you are, even when no one sees it. Especially when no one sees it, because identity is not what you tell people, it's what you repeat behind closed doors. The world is filled with performers. They read all the books, post all the quotes, speak with all the conviction, but their breath betrays them. Their hands shake under pressure, their gaze breaks too soon. Why? Because they studied strength, but they never lived it, never integrated it into their bones. They worshipped the blueprint, but never built the house. And when the storm hit, they had nowhere to go. That's not resilience, that's costume. That's philosophy without weight. And weight is what turns concepts into armor. You fortify the source code by living in tension, by treating every day like a training ground. By moving through discomfort with discipline instead of delay. You build your roots through repetition, through exposure, through conscious, deliberate action. When you feel fear and move anyway. That's how the system rewrites itself. When your lungs want to race and you slow your breath on command, that's how resilience embeds itself into your biology. You are not trying to escape tension, you are teaching your body to carry it like a weapon. And what's most terrifying to the world? A man whose energy remains unchanged, not robotic, not numb, but grounded. A man who holds his center when the room loses theirs, who doesn't flinch when provoked, who doesn't chase noise or shrink in silence. That man is a mirror. He reflects the fragility of others. He makes their untrained spirit uncomfortable because he reminds them of everything they could be but aren't. Be that mirror. And when they break, don't blink. So, stop reading about strength like it's an aesthetic. Live it, breathe it, etch it into your habits until it's in your walk, your breath, your presence. Until the man in the mirror no longer needs reminders, because he is the reminder. The source code is already in you. Your job is to fortify it, harden it, arm it, so that when the storm comes, you don't need to react. You've already become the type of man who outlasts it. Your body doesn't rise to the occasion, it defaults to its training. That's the truth most people choke on. They wait for the moment to become the person. They believe adrenaline will make them powerful, that urgency will wake the dormant force within them. But that's fantasy. In pressure, you fall back to what you've repeated. Your baseline state, your resting pattern, is the ceiling you hit when chaos hits first. You don't become something new in a crisis. You become exactly what you've been in silence. If your breath is shallow in peace, it will vanish in war. If your mind is scattered when life is quiet, it will collapse when the noise hits. The man who is hard to kill understands this law. He treats calm like combat. He doesn't wait for storms to start training for them. He simulates them, rehearses them, breathes through them, until discomfort becomes the rhythm of his discipline. There's a reason the elite train in stillness, not because it's easy, but because it's surgical. Because in stillness you feel every glitch, you hear the whispers of hesitation, you see where your thoughts break and your spirit flickers. The quiet exposes everything noise hides. That's why training at peace like it's war is the ultimate amplifier. It strips away the excuse of urgency and reveals your true baseline. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You realize that your morning breath, your idle posture, your casual choices, they are building your performance under fire, or dismantling it, one breath at a time. Your breath is not a luxury, it is a weapon, and yet most people leave it untrained. They inhale chaos and exhale collapse. But you train breath like it's steel. Slow, deep, controlled. Because the man who controls his breath controls his presence. And the man who owns his presence owns the room, even when it's burning. In war, there is no time to remember how to breathe. You either have it or you drown. This is why repetition matters. Because when the pressure hits, your conscious mind takes a step back and your body takes over. And what your body takes over with is whatever you gave it in the quiet hours no one applauded. You want composure? Don't look for it in the fire. Build it in the morning silence. Stack it in routines. Engrave it into how you walk, how you sit, how you handle delay. People think warriors are born in battle. No, warriors are revealed in battle. But they are built in boredom, built in routine, built in the unnoticed moments when they train their system not to react but to respond. So when chaos arrives, it doesn't feel foreign, it feels familiar. Not comfortable, but manageable. And that familiarity is power, because the man who has seen the storm before doesn't blink when it returns. Most people never train past convenience. Their effort peaks at comfort. The moment it gets hard, they look for relief. But relief is not the path to resilience. Discomfort is. To be hard to kill, you must romanticize repetition. You must fall in love with process, with deliberate suffering, with uncelebrated focus. Because what you do without an audience is what builds the identity that won't flinch under one. Train like no one is watching, because when the real moment arrives, everyone will be. Stress isn't a test, it's an amplifier. It doesn't change who you are, it multiplies it. If you are composed in training, that composition will echo louder in war. If you are frantic, scattered, and inconsistent when no one's watching, pressure will pull that forward. It will put it on display. And by then, it's too late. You cannot build structure mid-force, and that reinforcement is built brick by brick. Every time you choose posture over slouch, presence over rush, breath over panic. Training at peace like it's war isn't metaphor. It's preparation. When you wake up early, not because you have to, but because you said you would, you're not just building habits, you're proving to yourself that your word carries weight. And when the stakes are real, when people are watching and the outcome matters, you won't fold.